Chicago. White Sox or Cubs? Never mind. Never mind. Where you out of town? Give it to me. Where are you from? Tom Reed out of Nashville. Nashville. Middle Tennessee State University. No. Philadelphia. The rich side or the poor side? Never mind. Virginia. Where else? Anybody else from out of town? Anybody? Columbus, Indiana, not to be confused with the capital of Ohio. Shayna, where are you from? St. Louis Cardinals. Victoria, where are you from?
I am from Lynchburg, but have been living in Murfreesboro for the last...
Murfreesboro. Did y'all hear that back there? Where are you from?
Yeah, Steve, I came all the way from London, England for the
London,
Big Bourbon Club. How about that?
London,
I'm
England.
just kidding. I live in the Highlands.
All right, you get the award for coming the furthest 20 years ago for college at Bellarmine University. Welcome to the Big Bourbon Club. We're excited to have you. Couple things. We have a lot of new members here, so let me remind you what the club is. This club is 6 months old. We have 3,000 members. It's a virtual bourbon club, and what that means to me is it's not just a Louisville bourbon club. We have 3,000 members, and probably 2,500 live not in Louisville or not in Kentucky, but across the country. And they're watching on Facebook Live right now. So we're excited to have all of them. We have an app. We have a proprietary app for the Big Bourbon Club. We have about 300 engagements every day just on the Bourbon Club app. And without Tom Reed, we'd probably only have 100. But we've got a lot of engagements. We have a community, and we're having a blast. If you're not a member of the Big Bourbon Club, it's $125. It's less than an expensive bottle of bourbon. So think about that. Come and join us, bigbourbоnclub.com. A year ago this week, I posted my first TikTok video. My son, Connor, my favorite son. Connor, stand up. My favorite son of 4. Well, he's the only one here. Connor, all right, sit down. We're not standing up long. So Connor convinces me to go to TikTok, and I said, well, what's TikTok? He tells me, and a year later this week, I've got 16 million views, which I don't know what that means other than what in the hell, a lot of dumb people in America, I guess. 16 million views watching me talk about bourbon, and since then, it's kind of exploded with the Big Bourbon Club. But what I want you to know is this club started after a couple of months on TikTok. I never dreamed of having a club. I didn't even know what a club was. I'm not a member of any club, never had been, but I love bourbon. But I realized when everybody on TikTok started coming to what they call Uncle Steve, because I'm a lot older than everybody on there, they asked me questions of bourbon. They asked me, what's a rye? What's the mash bill? What's this? What's that? And I didn't know the answers to most of the questions. So I'd Google them, and I'd go on acting like I was an expert, right? But all of these questions that we got, I realized that access to bourbon and access to bourbon history and stories, which is oftentimes more important than what you actually drink, but it's a huge part of the brand and a huge part of the bourbon. A lot of people don't have access. Women, African Americans, other nationalities, millennials, if you live in Wyoming. A lot of people don't have access to bourbon like you do if you live in Louisville and you're my age and you look like me. And so the Bourbon Club was started with the mission of lowering the barrier of entry so anybody, no matter who you are or where you are, if you're interested in learning about bourbon, hearing the stories and tasting it, getting access to it, that's what Big Bourbon Club is. That's our mission. And we're very proud of doing, I think, a great job of lowering the barriers for at least 3,000 people so far. Crest, stand up. Crest is the owner. Well, stand on that table, Crest. Just like last night when I was with you. No, never mind. Crest's own Joe's Older Than Dirt. He's our host. He's also my partner in the Big Bourbon Club. So, Crest, thanks for the partnership. We found out that a week ago we were not going to be able to live stream for the first time ever. And Kyle, who had a conflict, we have an international professional women's tournament in Louisville this week, and he's covering that game. And so Charles, who is a big fan of ours and a member of the club, said, Steve, I'll help you out. So 2 days ago, Charles reaches out to me and says, let me film it. Charles, thank you so much. Thank you, Under Production. Thank you to Under Production, which is Charles's firm. And Under Production is like under construction, meaning we're producing now. Is that right? There we go. All right. So with no further ado, let's get started. We're very excited to have Victoria Edie Butler and Richie Michaels from Uncle Nearest. An incredible story, an incredible brand, and you're going to hear it all right now. So let me turn it over to Richie to kick off the program. Richie, go get him.
You got it. Thanks, Steve. Well, thanks to everyone for coming out. We really, really appreciate y'all. Our brand is based around one of the most incredible stories in American whiskey. And so the way that we can connect with people is through events like this. So we cannot stress how much we really, really appreciate everyone being here, allowing us to spread the word and tell the story of one incredible man and in one incredible family. So I really, really, really can't stress how much I love that y'all are here and really appreciate it. The man we're going to talk about today was a real person. It wasn't a character that has been made up for a story. This was a real person with a real story, and an absolutely incredible one at that. And that man's name was Nearest Green. Nearest Green is possibly, arguably, one of the most important people in our American whiskey history that some folks don't know a lot about. Some folks have never even heard his name. And so that is what we are here to do. That is our goal as a company. We're here to give the love, the credit, the honor, the respect to one of the most important figures that our American whiskey history has ever seen. Just for one thing, Uncle Nearest Green was the first recorded African-American distiller in United States history. How incredible is that? It doesn't mean he was the first African-American distiller. Just about all the distilleries we have around Kentucky and around Tennessee all were built with African-American distillers. African-Americans truly are the talent, the backbone of why this industry has become so successful. It just so happens that because of one other person in American whiskey history, Nearest Green and his accomplishments were recorded. And so we'll talk about that other person here in a little bit too. Some of his other accomplishments were that Nearest Green was what we call the godfather of Tennessee-style whiskey. And what I mean by that is that he perfected and taught the techniques that are now legally binding for Tennessee whiskey. If anyone's ever heard of the Lincoln County process, charcoal mellowing, charcoal filtration, this is something that came from Nearest Green, and after generations and generations and generations, finally in 2013, the governor of Tennessee, Governor Haslam, put in Bill 1081, and in that bill, he said that from this point forward, if you want to be known as a Tennessee-style whiskey, you're required by law to use all the same laws as bourbon, but one extra thing too. And that extra thing is that you are now required by law to use Nearest Green's technique of filtering your whiskey through charcoal made from maple trees before putting it in the barrel to age. So at that moment, he truly did become recognized on a government level, on an international level, as the godfather of Tennessee whiskey. He's the entire reason this industry exists. Tennessee whiskey is actually the biggest American whiskey export industry in history, and it all started with this one man. His story is quite incredible, and I obviously love telling his story, trust me, but we have a friend of our company. His name is Jeffrey Wright. If you don't know his name, you'll probably recognize his face. If you don't recognize his face, you'll definitely recognize his voice. I think my voice is cute, but his is way cuter than mine. So Jeffrey actually came to us. His grandfather was a distiller, and so he connected with Uncle Nearest and the story of our company very well. And he came to us and wanted to help us tell the world about Uncle Nearest and tell the world how our American whiskey was truly built by African Americans. And so he asked if there's anything that he can do to help us. And we said, well, you've got a beautiful face and a beautiful voice, so why don't you make a video for us telling the story of Uncle Nearest Green? And so he did that. And so I'm actually going to direct you to this TV up here. And we're going to play a short video that Jeffrey recorded for us about the life story of Uncle Nearest Green.
A special home on a special piece of American land. Surprised it's still here. This isn't a set. We're in Tennessee, in the hills above Lynchburg. I want to tell you a story, true story. Over 160 years ago, the sight of steam and smoke curling into the sky just around that bend meant one thing to the people of Lincoln County. It meant the man they called Nearest Green was hard at work making the finest whiskey ever to come out of these hills. He took the same elements available to anyone else: earth, fire, water. He added generational skill, success, surely some failure. He put in everything he had. Most of all, he put in his heart. He created a spirit, an essence. What Nearest Green did here, with this limestone, that clear creek water, those sugar maple trees, he gave birth to Tennessee whiskey. The technique Nearest perfected of filtering his whiskey through charcoal made from sugar maple trees is still revered 2 centuries later as the Lincoln County process. His unique approach was most likely passed down to him from West Africa, where people historically filtered their water through charcoal to purify it. This single innovation in Nearest's hands would become the defining distinction between Tennessee whiskey and Kentucky bourbon. Friends and family called him Uncle Nearest, the first African-American master distiller on record, the founding father of Tennessee whiskey. His story went missing, untold for quite some time. Why? It's complicated. But what's important is that the truth has finally found the light, as it always does. Nearest's given name was Nathan Green. He was thought to have been born in Maryland sometime around 1820. We don't know a lot about his early life, but we do know that in the mid-1800s, he began to work on a farm here in Tennessee. This farm, Nearest Green was a slave here, and later a free man. And this farm belonged to a man named Dan Call, a preacher. Well, Reverend Call wasn't only a preacher. He had a little side hustle. Yeah, a whiskey distillery. And Nearest Green was the one doing the distilling. The whiskey he made was unique in its smoothness. People said it was the best around. But this isn't just a story about a master craftsman and an innovator. It's a story of a friendship. Around the mid-1850s, a young boy came to work on Dan Call's farm. White boy. Wasn't a privileged kid. The youngest of 10 siblings. Motherless by 4 months old. Small for his age, but he wanted to work. And he helped the preacher out with whatever he could. But the constant smell of wood smoke and the mules and wagons shuffling back and forth up that hollow caught his attention. He wanted to know what the deal was with all that. Finally, the preacher gave in. He took him to meet Nearest. This is Uncle Nearest, he told him. The best whiskey maker I know of. And he asked Nearest to teach his new young apprentice everything he knew about distilling. Nearest took the boy under his wing, taught him well. They became good friends. As the boy got older, he started selling this special whiskey all around these parts and other towns, even to soldiers fighting in the Civil War. He was a natural-born salesman and entrepreneur. The 13th Amendment was ratified on December 6th, 1865. And soon after, Nathan Nearest Green was a free man. That boy, young man now, well, he purchased Dan Call's distillery and named it after himself. And of course, he asked his mentor and friend Nearest to be his first official master distiller. They kept making and selling great whiskey. And during this time, for a good many years to follow, Uncle Nearest's involvement was widely known. His family became one of the most prominent in the area, well respected for their talents and success. And as his business grew, the young man built a new, bigger distillery on another plot of Lynchburg land. Uncle Nearest decided to retire from the game, but his sons, Eli, George, and Lewis, continued to work for the distillery, as did his grandsons, Charlie and Dot. And that chore boy, who came to be a brilliant businessman, never let his friendship with and respect for Nearest Green and his family go unnoticed. Even after he became one of the most famous whiskey makers in all the world. His legal name was Jasper. Folks around here in Lynchburg still call him Uncle Jack. You know him as Jack Daniel. And now you know Nearest Green. This home, this bottle, this foundation honor that man, his legacy, and his future. 'Cause he lives on. Uncle Nearest didn't just make great whiskey. He made history. And now you know that too. And to all those men and women whose stories remain untold, may their truth find the light. A little taste of history.
So I hope that video gave everyone a sense of how important that man. Yeah, give him a round of applause, please. I hope that it gave everyone a sense of how important this man is to our American whiskey history. His contributions are absolutely incredible. Not only was he the first recorded African-American master distiller on record, he is also the godfather of Tennessee whiskey, the person who created, taught, perfected the techniques that are now legally binding for Tennessee whiskey. On top of that, he also took in and raised a young 8-year-old boy by the name of Jack Daniel, taught Jack everything about life, how to work hard, how to be a good person. But what turned out to be most important that we saw from that video is he taught Jack how to make whiskey. And he taught him how to make whiskey that very specific way by filtering it through charcoal made from maple trees before putting it in the barrel to age. So he truly is one of the most important men in our American whiskey history. One thing that they don't mention on the video is that after Nearest retired, he actually had 7 generations of his children work at the Jack Daniel distillery continuously still to this day. There's still 3 of them who work there today. So not only is Uncle Nearest Green one of the most important figures in American whiskey history, his family are one of the most important families in our American whiskey history as well. So I'm actually going to hand it back to Steve for a minute. I think you have some more words to say to everyone. Or?
I'm the MC. I'm going to be talking all night.
Okay. He loves talking.
Great job. Appreciate it, Richie. That was awesome. So I mentioned to you I was on TikTok last fall, and I had a lot of, it was really weird. I had all these women write me on TikTok. I didn't realize they were all women, but a lot of them were, and no, I'm just joking. But I got a lot of comments on TikTok, and I did get one from a lady. And she said, her name was Shayna, and she said, Steve, do you know who Nathan Green is? And I said, no, I do not. She said, do you know what Uncle Nearest is? And I said, well, I've certainly heard of it, but I've never even tasted it. And she goes, can I tell you the story? And I said, of course. So she gave me her phone number, and we spoke several times, and she told me the whole story. And I fell in love with the story, and I fell in love with Shayna even more. Shayna McGilberry is Nathan Green's great-great-granddaughter, and she turned me on to the whole story. And we've become friends ever since. She's a testimonial on my website and a member of the club, and she was at the house last night with Suzanne and me having probably too much bourbon. Come on up, Shayna. Shayna drove in from St. Louis. Shayna had tears in her eyes during that video. I'm going to turn it over to Shayna to take over the next part.
Thank you. How you guys doing today? It's so wonderful to see all you here. Some of you guys I've probably seen online. I didn't even see that camera first. So, welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. I hope you guys spread the story. I was supposed to do this presentation at first, and I can't tell you how glad I am that I don't have to do it anymore, because my cousin, Miss Victoria Edie Butler, who is a master blender for Uncle Nearest, this woman has the perfection in her taste buds, and I'm guessing it was passed down through the line, and it hit her big time because she knows what's good. She knows what to put together to make some fantastic whiskey. And so my cousin's going to talk to you guys and give you a little bit more, if you'll welcome her.
Thank you, guys. I have been doing this for a while now, but that is the first time that one of my sweet cousins has introduced me. So I'm a little bit in my feelings today. Thank you, cousin. I don't usually stand up. Do y'all care if I sit down? This is
grab a seat. Come on.
my work boyfriend. So he and I are going to do this together. I do want to thank you again for coming out on this hot Saturday afternoon. It's Saturday, right?
It's Saturday, and it's
Okay.
hot.
It's hot. We're going to drink some whiskey. You'll probably get hotter. But it is the most fantastic Tennessee whiskey you will ever have the pleasure of sipping. So what the young ladies have poured for you is the Uncle Nearest 1884 small batch. I had the beautiful responsibility of blending that whiskey. It hit the market July 2019. Right out the gate, we started winning awards with it, and the awards and the accolades, they have not stopped.
Oh, they
right?
keep on coming.
Yeah. So earlier this year, I was selected and honored to be Master Blender of the Year by Whiskey Icon. And so, thank you.
You know, I just got to elaborate on that a little bit. For folks who aren't really in depth in the whiskey industry, the #1 publication in the world is Whiskey Magazine. And they have an awards ceremony once a year. And it is absolutely the Oscars of our industry. And the biggest award that they hand out every year is the Master Distiller of the Year and the Master Blender of the Year. So Victoria Edie Butler, 2021 Whiskey Magazine's Master Blender of the Year.
Thank you.
It truly is in your blood.
It is. The craziest thing is I didn't know it. But in March of 2019, our awesome CEO and founder, Fawn Weaver, asked me to curate the first batch of 1884. Richie was there with me, along with a few others, and I was a nervous wreck because although I know now that whiskey really is in my blood, my background was law enforcement. 31 years, just a few days shy of 31 years. So although I enjoyed a good glass of whiskey, I entertained family and friends with cocktails, have done that for years, really enjoyed it. I was not familiar with how to blend whiskey. And so the first time I went in to do it, quite naturally, I was nervous. But now I have come to realize that I'm pretty damn good at this.
Well, hell yeah.
Pretty good. But Richie, along with other teammates, have been right by my side right from the jump. And so have you guys. Those of you who have tasted our whiskey and who continue to support it. I appreciate that. My family appreciates that. Our company appreciates that. So thank you very much for supporting us. If not from the beginning, I'm hoping going forward from today. Knowing what you know from the video, and hopefully what I share with you during this tasting, you will be a fan moving forward. So let's drink some whiskey.
Oh, I thought you were never going to say. Oh.
So what you have is the beautiful 1884. Richie is going to guide you through the tasting because he does it much better than I do.
Oh, come on.
So I'll yield to you, Mr. Michaels.
Okay, so the first one, like we said, the 1884 are small batch. Now, when we say small batch, we truly mean small batch for this whiskey. When Victoria goes in to do her blending sessions, she truly does touch and taste every single drop of whiskey that goes into every single bottle. This bottle is a true representation of her palate. So when you're enjoying this, you know that it's something that you can feel connected with Victoria herself, because this is something that she truly thought was absolutely spectacular. When we do the blending sessions, we go through, this is going to sound crazy, but I mean, we truly do taste through hundreds of barrels of whiskey when we're tasting them, and we don't drink them all. I mean, we spit it out a little bit, but
I don't spit it out. So
we get a little tipsy too sometimes. I'll be honest with you.
When we first started, and I guess Richie hadn't been with me since the second one, the third one.
Yeah, I was with you for the first three, and then.
So now I do not spit out. I don't believe in wasting good whiskey, and the only preconceived idea that I really had going into the blending is that it have a really nice finish. And if you spit it out, how do you know if the finish is good? So I don't spit it out, ever.
That's a lot of whiskey drinking.
Well,
for-
if it
for one
takes all day, it just
Yeah.
takes all day.
Exactly.
So, most blenders do spit it out, but I just don't anymore.
She got a better liver than I do, I'll tell you, and that's saying something. So every single drop, like I said, is hand-picked, hand-tasted. If it isn't fully matured, if it isn't absolutely perfect, it doesn't get picked. It has to be absolutely fully matured, ready to come out of the barrel and go into that bottle. Every barrel that we taste through for the 1884 is between 7 years and 7 years, 11 months. After they go on to 8-year-old, then we'll talk about what happens to those barrels here in a second. So 7-year-old to 7-year, 11 months. Absolutely beautiful whiskey. It's a high corn recipe. It starts its life as 84% corn recipe. Actually, we have a little link to Kentucky as well. We actually get our grains from Hopkinsville. So we have a little Kentucky connection. They put them on a train.
Along with our barrels.
Yeah, exactly. We get our barrels, we get our grains, so connected to the state a little bit. So we take our grains down to Tennessee. 84% is a high corn recipe, and that's generally quite common for Tennessee-style whiskeys. But if you go way back in history, it was very much a corn-growing state. Kentucky was as well, but they also grew a lot more rye here. And so naturally, progression, a lot more rye was used in whiskey in Kentucky than it was in Tennessee. Come on, get through, y'all. Golly. Did you hate that it came on right in the middle of the video? God, I haven't gone all day, and then right when we're doing the video. So Tennessee is actually known for being a little bit high corn recipe. They didn't grow as much rye down there, so naturally through the course of history, they had more corn in their recipes, and we stay true to that today. We obviously use nearest green's technique of filtering the whiskey through charcoal made from sugar maple trees before we put it in the barrel to age. The reason that we use sugar maple trees is no big secret. It's not very complicated. It's just because that farm where nearest green lived and worked was abundant with sugar maple trees. So it was just by coincidence that they were available and do an amazing job at filtering out all of those unwanted things that you don't necessarily want in your whiskey when you put it in the bottle. Some stuff like your early evaporating alcohols, if that makes sense to anyone, or fusel oils. You have a lot of residual fusel oils after your distillation. So the charcoal does an amazing job at filtering all of those out. It makes the whiskey incredibly soft, incredibly smooth, just easy, drinkable. And we bottle this one at 93 proof. The reason we chose 93 proof was because we don't know for sure, but we were given some documentation that suggested that when Nearest Green was working, making whiskey on that farm, that the whiskey was being sold on at 93 proof. So it's a little bit of an ode to him, just from what we've been passed down from generation to generation. When you do your blending sessions, Victoria, what is the process? I mean, talk everyone through. It's really interesting, and I think that people would love to hear about what you actually do step by step.
Well, one of the things I do that is different from most blenders, if you all know anything at all about our company, you will know that we are in our own lane. We don't do anything like anyone else, and I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. It works beautifully for us. And one thing that is different is, well, two things, I guess. I don't spit out the whiskey, and I blend at high proof, at barrel proof. I taste, I sample at barrel proof, then proof it down to the 93, what you all are about to sip from the bottle.
To put that in perspective for everyone, most most master blenders around the world will blend with the whiskey proof down to 42, 21% alcohol. That's kind of industry standard. Not for Victoria, though. She's like, just giving me straight out the barrel. Come on, y'all. I want to taste what it's really
That's how it tastes
like.
the best.
Yeah,
You know, you can taste it straight out the barrel. And I usually don't discard bad whiskey because all of our juice is good. I just blend what I like most. So that's a little different too.
Yeah, absolutely. And
And then there are some secrets that I shall not share.
are you sure?
Absolutely sure. Somebody else may be Master Blender of the Year if I do that.
No, we don't want that. So this whiskey is amazing. It's like I said, a representation of Victoria's palate. It's a representation of her journey in whiskey and her journey that her family has been through for generations. The great-great-granddaughter of Nearest Green, 7 generations in the whiskey industry. And so I think that that's a really interesting topic to talk about, is about the family history. She's distracted right now. It's about the family history of Victoria and what her upbringing was. So you want to talk about, just life growing up in Lynchburg, being a Nearest Green descendant.
Can we let them sip their whiskey first?
Yeah, while you're
Because
telling
they're
stories.
looking at me like, what in the hell are y'all
Oh,
doing?
hold on. Have y'all not sipped whiskey yet?
No, you didn't tell them to.
Oh, okay, y'all. A few ground rules first.
Let's drink
We-
some 84.
Yeah, drink up, y'all.
Hey, Richie, this is a bourbon club.
You know what, Steve? A few little ground rules. I forgot that y'all have met me before. You don't need to wait for me to tell you to drink whiskey. Whiskey's for drinking, not for looking at. As soon as it gets in your glass, you pick it up and start sipping.
Kind of like this,
So-
right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Once is this microphone working? I don't know why, but I lost the other one, Charles.
It's right here.
Huh?
It's right here.
Okay, I thought we had 4 of them at her. Maybe I didn't lose it. Victoria swiped it from me. So let's hear from the audience. Tell us what you get on the nose. What's the bouquet? What's the first sip? How do you like this? What flavor profile do you get? Holler it out. Vanilla. Butterscotch E. Is that a word? Butterscotch, vanilla, caramel. What else? What else you get? Oak.
And just so you guys know, there is no wrong or right answer. We are all made unique. I hope there are some similarities to what I think. But when sampling whiskey or doing a whiskey tasting, there's no right or wrong answer. You smell, you taste what you smell and taste.
That is so true. Don't ever let anybody tell you what you should be tasting in a glass of whiskey. So there's actually usually between 300 and 300 different types of molecules in a single glass of whiskey. That's pretty incredible. And each of those molecules can connect with your olfactory bulb and be converted into a different perceived taste. And everybody's olfactory bulb is as unique as their fingerprint. So what everybody's going to be detecting is going to be completely unique to you. There are some elements and molecules in a glass of whiskey that are very common that everyone should pick up on, those being obviously the alcohol or the ethanol. The caramels are always very prominent. The vanillins or the vanillas are always very prominent. Some of the oaky elements are usually quite prominent. And then outside of that, it's going to start to vary and be very unique to yourself. So it's a very personal experience drinking whiskey.
Absolutely, absolutely. Same thing with how you want to drink it. Some say don't add anything to it, don't use it in a cocktail. You bought it, you drink it how you like it.
Damn straight.
Drink it how you like it.
So we've got a couple of questions from Facebook. Do you want to holler them out, Connor? Hold on.
Some of these may be repeats, but so they said, not sure if I missed this. Of all the family members that carried on the tradition, were any of them master distillers like Uncle Nearest, or have they held any other positions?
Now, are there any other master distillers at Uncle Nearest?
In Uncle Nearest bloodline, in the family?
No, not to my knowledge.
And the other question was, they were just asking, what's the mash bill?
I don't share. Richie will
Yeah.
share. I don't share the mash
Yeah,
bill.
you
So we're on Facebook Live. If anybody gets fired, it's him.
Yeah. We are under a contractor agreement not to share a lot of details. The only detail that
It's
I
a
can
whole
really-
lot of corn. It's a whole lot of corn.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. A whole lot of corn.
That is a political answer if I've ever heard one. Yeah.
It's 51%.
So raise your hand if you've never had the 1884 expression before today. Raise it high. All right, let's do it a different way. Put your hand down. Raise your hand if you've had it before today. Wow. We're going to get some converts here today. We've got some new fans.
Raise
right?
your hand if you absolutely loved it.
Oh.
Yay!
How about that? All right, we have a question. Brennan, you have a question?
1884 signifies the year that we believe, based on research, that Nearest Green last put whiskey in a barrel to age. So we pay homage to his retirement.
It is. He hung up his dusty boots in 1884.
Exactly.
And I think he deserved it because we think that he might have been 64 years old.
Right.
But he actually has no birth certificate. We don't know how to verify exactly how old he was. But we did see in the census of 1880, he was recorded as being 60 years old. So we made an educated guess that he was born in 1820. 1884, he would have been about 64 years old. So he had earned his retirement. He truly had. I mean, the guy was a genius, and he had his sons George, Eli, and Lewis to kind of pass the reins of creating amazing whiskey onto, and he obviously had Jack to pass those reins onto as well. So the whiskey went into good hands, and they continued making it the exact same way that Nearest Green did before 1884.
All right, any other questions on the ground here in Louisville? Any other questions from the audience? Derek, you got any questions?
Thank
That's
you.
what I'm talking
Thank
about.
you, Derek.
All right, new
Yay.
You ought to trademark that and make your tagline, my new number
number one?
I love it. Any other questions? Thomas?
7 to 7 years, 11 months.
Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to pour the next expression.
While they're doing that, Richie can ask me questions.
Richie, you can ask Victoria questions now.
Let's
He
do
likes
it.
to do that.
I do. I love hearing about your just life story. I think one of the most fascinating things to talk to you about is growing up around Lynchburg as a descendant of Nearest Green and being close and having some of your best friends in the world be descendants of Jack Daniel. Those bloodlines stayed connected all of those years, through all of those generations, and still to today.
And still till today. So my mother and her sisters were friends with Jack's great nieces. Same with my sisters and I. Mr. Connor Motlow had all daughters. Jack never married, didn't have any children, so he, left everything to his nephews, namely Liam Motlow. And then Mr. Connor Motlow had all girls, and my sister and I, we grew up playing with the Motlow girls. And so our families have always been close. People ask me a lot, just like you did then, what was it like? Well, that's all we knew. We didn't think anything of it. I've known my whole life that Nearest Green and Jack Daniel had a special relationship. That during a time when a African-American man, about 28 years Jack's senior, and his mentor and friend, that was unheard of. When they met, Nearest was still a slave. And once he was a free man, their friendship continued. Even after Nearest became Jack's master distiller, Jack made sure that Nearest and his family was treated fair, meaning fair wages. Nearest and his sons and grandsons were paid the same as their white counterparts. And so their relationship And just like the town of Lynchburg, I think Jack and Nears set the tone for that. So growing up in Lynchburg, I never dealt with racial tensions. I'm not ashamed to share. I am 60 years old. I turned 60 on the 22nd of July. So thank you.
Don't my girlfriend still look real good?
So, you know, I grew up in the 60s, right? Born in 1961. And so during the 60s, there were still racial tensions. Well, actually still is today in our country. But I wasn't affected by that as a young girl. Our folks, our families in Lynchburg, we all got along. You know, you'd be foolish to say you don't see color. Everyone sees color, but color was not a factor in our relationships in Lynchburg. And after I went to college, I saw things differently. And so I am so grateful for growing up in Lynchburg, in a city that embraced people for who they were, for not for what they looked like. And I really believe that was the tone was set early on with Nears Green and Jack Daniel.
You know, our company truly does revolve around love, respect,
It does.
honor.
It does.
That is something that came down all those generations from the beautiful relationship between Nearest and Jack.
Absolutely.
The unlikely and beautiful relationship between
Absolutely.
them two. So whenever we talk about Nearest Green, our goal is always to give this man and his family the legacy, the honor, the love, the respect that they've truly always deserved in American whiskey history. But we always have to give some love, honor, and respect to Jack as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They were both truly special people. So I think
Everybody got 56?
yeah, I think they've got some more whiskey in front of them, right?
All right. Nobody, okay, everybody doesn't have 56. Okay, just a few more.
Just
One more question. Sure. You know what? It's funny you mentioned a movie. He said, when's the movie? So when Fawn came to town, Fawn Weaver, who is our CEO and founder, when she arrived in Lynchburg, it was with the mindset of writing a book and probably one day there being a movie. Then the whiskey took off. And so she's been a little bit busy being the head of a whiskey company.
You know, how much did it take off? I heard that maybe we're the fastest growing American whiskey brand in history. Is that right?
That is completely true. We are
How
the
about that?
fastest growing American spirit in history.
Incredible.
And we are the most awarded whiskey or bourbon, you Kentucky folks, I won't go there, whiskey or bourbon for 2019, 2020, and obviously for 21. No one will be able to catch us.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And when we say we're the most awarded of any bourbon, we truly do mean it. We're not talking about a specific price category. Take all your fancy Pappy Van Winkles, all of your expensive Whistle Pigs or Kentucky Owls. None of them can come close to us. We are the most awarded American whiskey, including bourbon.
Blind tasting.
Yep. And we're coming up to being taking that honor 3 years in a row.
Yes.
And a lot of that is because of the amazing palate of our master blender of the year, Miss Victoria Edie
Thank
Butler.
you. Thank you so much.
You truly
Thank
are
you so
special.
much. Oh, I was in federal law enforcement. Yeah. I didn't. Just like Fawn, I think it came looking for me. So I was on the very edge, the very end of my career in law enforcement, and the brand had already launched. So Fawn and I had a conversation about me joining the team. I retired the last Thursday in February 2019 and started working, I think, the first Monday in March 2019, and have not looked back since. It has been the absolute best thing that has ever happened to me or me and my family. Again, I knew I loved whiskey. I enjoyed drinking it. But what Fawn did when she asked me to blend it was tap into a passion that I didn't know was there. And so now I cannot imagine doing anything else. And I get to meet people like you every day, every weekend. We're building out this beautiful facility, our distillery in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Sold out tours every weekend. Our whiskey family continues to support every weekend. So now I just can't imagine doing anything else. So I think it landed in my lap. And who do you know that has the opportunity to continue a legacy that lay dormant for more than 160 plus years? I love it. I love it.
Truly is incredible. We've got one more question.
Yes, did you get any specific training on distilling and blending? No, ma'am. I didn't. I am a certified bourbon steward, but that is totally different from blending the whiskey. Now, when I joined the team, because I had not been in the spirits industry before, I did start reading and talking to people just so I could speak intelligently to those in the field, but I didn't take any training. I don't have any training, so to speak, when it comes to blending. I just really believe and know, really, that it's in my blood.
Yeah, it's incredible to watch too. To see you go through the barrels and taste, it's kind of spectacular to see it in front of your eyes and just be able to watch your mind work and seeing what you love in the whiskey and what you think is not quite mature and ready yet. It's really impressive.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. Really, I can't explain it. People ask me that, and I know my answer may seem kind of cliche, but it's true. I really believe that the uniqueness, the gift that my great-great-grandfather possessed all those years ago, that it just transcended to his great-great-granddaughter.
Mm-hmm. I think we got a couple more questions out there, but let's go ahead and drink some of the 1856.
Yes.
How about that?
So 1856 signifies the year that Nearest Green helped perfect that Lincoln County process. It is 100 proof whiskey, 8 to 14-year-old, more 14 than 8, but legally we have to say that. I think it sips certainly like a 14-year-old or above. I think the finish is strong and long, but it's not pungent. I don't think it feels like it's 100 proof. On the nose, for me, I get tobacco and hay, a lot of earthiness. The maple is there, and then I think the maple is more pronounced on the taste. A little bit of spiciness, like what you might get when you're cooking oatmeal cookies or something like that. Sweet, but spicy.
Yeah, you know what always blows me away about this whiskey is how soft it is. It's got a velvety, the viscosity is absolutely beautiful. And one of the things that leads to that is the fact that what you're sipping now is 100 proof, but it's actually only about 2 or 3 proof off of batch strength. When we age our barrels, we actually age them in a one-story warehouse. So all the barrels sit very, very close to the ground. And so that means that they stay quite cool. And when the barrels are cool, the alcohol will evaporate out the barrel at a faster rate than the water. That's because alcohol evaporates at a lower temperature than water. And so when those barrels are high up in the warehouse and they're very hot, then the water will evaporate at a faster rate and the proof will go up, the alcohol content will go up. But when they're nice and cool and close to the ground, the alcohol content will go down. And so we put our whiskey into the barrel at 110, but after 10, 11, 12, 14 years, the whiskey is generally coming out between 96 and 106. That's about an average. And then we make the batches with Victoria's amazing palate, And those batches are generally coming out between 102 and 103 proof. And then we bottle it at 100, just an even 100, just add a touch of water just to even it off to 100 proof. And so what you're sipping is so close to batch strength, and it's mind-blowing how soft it is. It's absolutely beautiful whiskey.
So let's do this again. Raise your hand if you have had the 1856 before now.
I like y'all. I like this couple right here.
So we've got 5 of us, 6 of us. Raise your hand if you've never had the 56. Raise your hand if you like the 56 better than the first one we had.
Excellent, excellent.
There's a lot of votes for 56.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you like it? Good. I agree.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You like her, don't you?
Yeah.
I've liked her for 33 years.
That's wonderful.
So let me ask a question. So everybody keeps sipping on the 1856. Victoria, there's a local company, a small little bourbon maker called Brown-Forman.
Small. I heard of them.
Yeah, you probably have. A lot of us know the people there. We grew up here. It seems to me like Brown-Forman would have figured this out a long time ago. What a brand, what a story. Did they have any idea about, have they ever considered the brand of Uncle Nearest before Fawn got involved? And are they supportive of you today now that you're not part of Brown-Forman?
Not to my knowledge on the first part. I have, I don't have any connection with Brown Foreman, all those years ago. And yes, they are very supportive. We have a good relationship with the Brown Foreman team, with their leadership team. So we don't consider ourselves in competition, but yeah, we have a good relationship.
An unlikely relationship.
Yeah,
You know,
we've even done some virtual things together.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
They are absolutely amazing friends of our company. And I think it's a representation of the unlikely and beautiful relationship between Nearest and Jack, the people, is translated into the unlikely and beautiful relationship between ourselves and Brown-Forman today.
Absolutely. So on June 17th, we had a green reunion, and we reached out to the Jack Daniel team and asked them if they wanted to be a part of it as well. And of course, they said yes. So it was Green Day in Shelbyville and Lynchburg. I think I'm quoting correctly. June 17th, 2021 was the first time since they've been having tours at Jack Daniel Distillery that they shut down their tourism side for the day. And they shut down to honor Nearest's descendants. So they went to Jack Daniel. They started at Nearest Green Distillery, and then we went to Jack Daniel, and then finished the evening at Nearest Green. It was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful day. 113 of us. It was excellent. Her mama was there. So it was a good day.
Suzanne.
Well, it seems like with all the visitors that we've had here with the Bourbon Club, we haven't had a lot of strong women. And so I'm like, wow. Yeah, so it seems like with the story of Fawn and you, it seems like it's a pretty strong female-based, or I just wanted to
It is a strong female base. I don't think Fawn consciously did that, but it happened. We are the only spirit that has an all-female executive team. We were featured on Whiskey Magazine a couple of months, 3-4 months ago.
Yeah, it's probably 4 months ago now.
Yeah, that's the first time that's ever happened. So yeah, I thank you for recognizing that. She just picked from what she knew, and when Fawn started the company, she reached into Sherry Moore, who's actually a descendant of Jack Daniel and had retired from Jack Daniel after 31 years of service there. She reached into Sherry, and Sherry came out of retirement to help us make Uncle Nearest.
I just want to emphasize how beautiful that is, that now our master blender, Victoria, is a descendant of Nearest Green, And our master distiller, Sherry Moore, is a descendant of Jack Daniel. How incredible is that?
It's pretty incredible. Sherry and I grew up together. If she were here, I would tease her, and I'll say in her absence, she's older than me, but we did grow up together.
Okay, hey, we've got I'm sorry, Victoria. I thought you were pausing there.
Oh, no, I am pausing. Go ahead.
I was going to do a giveaway, so we got a little
Yay.
trivia question. What is, you have to raise your hand high because I'm not going to hear you. What is Jack Daniel's real first name? I see the lady in the blue. Oh, Jasper, you win. All right, I hope you can wear an extra large Uncle Nearest shirt.
She loves Uncle Nearest. Whenever I come to Kentucky, she is here.
I love it.
So, yay, I'm glad she won.
I love it. So, where did Suzanne go? Suzanne, I want you to tell Victoria what you did in Nashville that night. All right, never mind. Let me load up the segment. We actually have a question from Facebook Live that Connor's been trying to get in.
Okay.
You were talking about production, and the question is, what is the production? How many barrels a day? How fast is it growing? When's the next expression come out?
Wow. That's a whole lot.
All right, Victoria can't answer, but Richie will probably talk about it on Facebook Live.
He talks more than I do.
You know, when you start a distillery and you're a whiskey distillery, you have to wait for your whiskey to age. And that is a long process, years and years and years. And so you obviously have to have a product to sell to stay in business while you're waiting for your own whiskey to age. So our company started on July 17th of 2017. So we just turned 4 years old. And so we started laying our own barrels of whiskey down 4 years ago. And they're not quite ready yet. But we have to do something in the meantime to stay in business, right? So when you're a new whiskey distillery, you really have a couple choices. You can either you can make vodka and gin like Castle and Key did and sell that to stay in business. Or you can, what we call source whiskey. It's basically purchasing pre-aged whiskey from other distilleries. And then you can use that as a product to sell to keep yourself in business until your whiskey is aged and ready to go. And so obviously being named after Uncle Nearest Green, the godfather of Tennessee whiskey, it'd be kind of weird to go ahead and sell vodka, right? That would be weird. No one wants that. So we decided to go the route of sourcing already aged whiskey while we're waiting for ours to mature and be ready. Now, what we did that was actually quite different from most other people in the industry is when we source it, we actually take the barrels to our own warehouses, let them age a little bit longer, and then our master distiller, Sherry Moore, who is not just a genius at distilling and in the distillery, she's also a genius at filtration. Sherry was actually the vice president of the American Filtration Society. She's one of the leading experts in the world when it comes to filtration. And so Sherry takes those barrels, and she does some proprietary filtration techniques to them before it's bottled as Uncle Nearest. And those filtration techniques are that she runs the whiskey through a carbon made from coconut shell, which is very, very unusual. Nobody in the industry really uses it because it's quite expensive technique. But the effect it has is that it's incredible at drawing out all of those residual fusel oils, a lot of the fatty and amino acids, some of the early evaporating alcohols that are left in your whiskey. And those are a lot of the particles that you don't necessarily want in your finished product. It does an incredible job of drawing those out. That's what makes our whiskey so unbelievably soft. Then she runs it through another filtration technique using a substance called diatomaceous earth, which is very, very unusual in the industry because it's a very expensive technique. But those are some techniques that while Sherry was the distiller at Jack Daniel, she was there for 31 years, those are some techniques that she developed while she was at Jack Daniel, but never had the opportunity to fully utilize. So when she came to Uncle Nearest, she saw an opportunity to use these incredible techniques. And so when you taste our whiskey side by side with the whiskey from the distillery where we source it from, it tastes very, very different, which is why we're the most awarded American whiskey or bourbon, and they're not.
And so 3 years from
Sherry
now, 3 years from now, when it's all of our own whiskey from start to finish, If we have done our job correctly, and we always do our job correctly, you all will never know the difference. We will have to kill you if we tell it.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so there's another. If you don't mind, I'll take over my event again.
Hey, just so you know, we started late. It's 5:20. I'm going to make Richie quit talking.
Richie.
I guess I'm out of here, y'all.
All right. Quick question. So this year, we were working with Richie on what would have been a really cool event for the Big Bourbon Club, which was a joint tour down to Shelbyville and Lynchburg and and Brown Foreman was in on it and you all were, and then COVID delayed it. So my question is to the audience, if we do a private event, Big Bourbon Club members only, would you go to Nashville for a weekend with us and hang out with Victoria, Richie, and... Well, you live there. Anybody not from there, we go. Okay.
We'll have fun. We'll have
All
fun.
right, so
I'll be a hoot, y'all.
here's my question. When does the barrel pick program start? And can we do the first one?
Y'all ask so many questions in Kentucky. Wow.
I know. Tough
Okay.
ones, too.
I'm not sure when it will start, and Richie will have to fight some other folks to make sure you're the first one. But I think he can make that happen.
Gee.
You put a lot of pressure on me right now,
That's
y'all.
on Facebook Live now. The whole world just heard that.
So he's got tall orders,
Sorry,
right?
did you hear that?
Kroger, Liquor Barn, Total Wine. If you're out there watching, I'm really sorry. Big Bourbon Club got y'all.
Okay, real quick. Suzanne, tell Victoria what happened to you several years ago in Nashville.
Well, I'm actually looking for the albums to see when it happened. I was in Nashville with college girlfriends from Indiana, and we were on the top of a building in a bar, and there was a whole group of men and women in the corner, and they were dressed to kill and looking like they were celebrating something big, and we were right next to them, feeling really old for our age, and because they were all young, and we struck up a conversation, and before Steve ever knew about Uncle Nearest, I heard the story from two women who told me they were in town for something with Uncle Nearest, some sort of groundbreaking or something.
Oh, was it September the 5th, 2019?
It was September or August. I was just looking.
Yeah. So had to be September the 5th, 2019.
Yeah,
No, they were.
well, I was too.
You were.
yeah.
I
we
was
were chasing
working.
Aldean's.
I was working. So that's what it was. On September the 5th, 2019, we broke ground at the Near Screen Distillery. Yeah.
I was, yeah.
Everybody was in the corner of that. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, I remember. Well, it's a little bit foggy, but yeah, I remember it.
Conversation wanted to know what the celebration was, and so when Steve started talking about Uncle Nearest a year ago, after talking to Shayna, I'm like, wow, this is really sounding familiar to me. And it turns out, I came back to him 15 minutes later. I said, I was there. I was there at the
So you've got to come to see what
Another
has happened
strong
now.
woman that was there.
Yeah. So I think we have a surprise.
Oh, what?
I mean, this is one hell of a surprise because I don't even have any at home.
No kidding.
So this awesome fella is going to let you all taste the 1820. 1820 signifies the year we believe Near Screen was born. It can only be purchased at the distillery, and we have been out of it since Juneteenth when we reopened. So he knows somebody, or he's been holding some bottles. Either way, you're in for a treat with this one, okay?
I know somebody, Richie, excuse me, raise your hand if you've ever had the 1820. Anybody? Holy Toledo, we've got a treat.
And
Got a
this
treat.
truly is a treat, y'all. This, when I say that this is one of the best bottles of whiskey on the planet, I'm not exaggerating. What you're about to taste is truly the best whiskey on the planet. And when I say that, I can say it with pride, with confidence, because not only remember that award ceremony I was talking about earlier, the Whiskey Magazine World Whiskey Awards? That's the Oscars of our industry. And every year they hand out an award for world's best whiskey. So in 2019, the 1820 won Whiskey Magazine's world's best whiskey. Absolutely incredible. It gets even better, y'all. In 2020, 1820 won world's best again. 2 years in a row. It was the first whiskey to ever win Whiskey Magazine's world's best 2 years in a row. And you know what happened, y'all? 2021, we won it again.
Well, it sounds like almost anybody could be the national brand ambassador with that pedigree, right? You better sell a lot of this stuff.
His work is not very hard, huh?
Victoria's making it happen. You got to go close the deal.
So truly, y'all, this Whiskey Magazine World Whiskey Awards, 3 years in a row, world's best, and you're about to try some of it right now. So who's excited? Yeah, come on.
Hey, ladies, can you tell us, if you look at the front of the bottle and tell us the proof? And this one is 108.4. What's the proof on your bottle back there in the back?
Hey, Carter, yeah, can you hear us?
It's in the middle. All right.
So there's two different expressions here, actually. Two bottles of one of 109.8, and then actually the two bottles are 105.4, and that's a 109.8.
Yeah, I couldn't get three of the same bottle. I literally stole these out of our R&D at the distillery. So we only had two bottles from one barrel available and one bottle from another barrel. So we have some of our 16th ever barrel of 1820, and we have some from our 18th ever barrel of 1820.
That's why we hired an Englishman for the job. He's like James Bond. He makes shit happen.
He does. He does. That's right. I'm not getting fired.
All
She's
right.
family.
Any questions from the audience while we're pouring? Brennan.
I didn't get one. Fawn said, would you like to blend? And I don't know of anyone who says no to Fawn. Do you?
I sure as heck don't.
We don't say no to her. And that's not in a bad way. Fawn Weaver is the most genuine, loving woman I have ever met outside of my mama. She and I are not blood related, but we are extremely close. I love her dearly. So when she asked, I answered. I think that's part of Richie's job.
Yeah, don't be trying to take my job. Come on. I worked hard for this.
If you haven't read about Fawn, you should look her up. She is absolutely one of the most highly recognized African-American business women in the world. She's on boards with Elon Musk. She talks to the president. She is absolutely at the very tip-top of all corporate CEOs, and there's no telling where Uncle Nearest goes to with that leadership.
All of those accolades and all of those accomplishments, she truly is one of the most genuinely beautiful human beings I've ever met. She is absolutely incredible.
What
person.
I love most about her, outside of her brilliance, is that she is the same all the time. So if anyone watches Sunday with the Weavers and she's acting silly, and that's how she is all the time. But the woman, she's brilliant.
Derek Bland, you had a question, young man, a few minutes ago. Do you still have it? Sorry, it's been 20 minutes ago.
That's what happens when you turn 25.
That was 2 glasses of whiskey ago.
Yeah.
Any other questions out there? Tom?
No. We have Sherry Moore.
You talking about the mold on the warehouses? You know, we sit on a 300-acre Tennessee walking horse farm with no residents for a couple, really, probably a mile either side. So for us, the mold on the warehousing,
I don't think it'll ever be an issue.
It's never going to be an issue for us.
No.
We have such wide open space there Generally, the issues you run into at a distillery with the mold is that it affects the resident's property around you. And so we don't have that issue, so we're not worried about it.
Yeah, and Sherry, I tease about Sherry, but she really is a very, very smart lady. She is our whiskey nerd for sure. But she has worked very closely with the folks that are laying out the warehouses. She, along with Keith Weaver, and the placement of the warehouses, just like everything else with our company, is very strategic. So I don't foresee that happening at Near Screen Distillery. I really don't.
All right, let's do one more question from Facebook Live, then we'll taste the 1820 if you haven't sipped it already. Connor.
That was not a question. That was a compliment.
Hold on a second. I didn't hear that right? Really? I outkicked my cover.
I don't know if everybody heard it. I think you should repeat what he said.
I introduced him as my favorite.
Yeah,
of the four
Connor, you've
sons
lost
at
your
the
crown,
beginning,
buddy.
But all of a sudden, he's down at the bottom again. Of course, I married
Now
up.
you're the 5th favorite son out of 4.
Why would I have married down? All right, let's taste 1820.
Yeah, y'all.
Everybody got 1820? I think we should toast to this one. Here's to good friends and great whiskey. Tennessee whiskey and Kentucky friends.
Let's do that. I'm going to videotape that one more time. No, for real. So Victoria, hold on. We're going to do a little commercial here.
Okay. Now, what did I say? Here we go. I'm just teasing. Let's raise our glass and a toast, guys. Here's to good whiskey, Tennessee whiskey, and Kentucky friends. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Awesome. All right, so what do you get on the 1820?
They didn't give me any.
Absolutely incredible,
Kidding.
right?
I'm just kidding.
So I think the proofs were, one was 109 and one was 105.
105.
105, sorry.
So let's be transparent. We're always very transparent. Typically, our 1820 is never tapped until it's at least 108 proof. You are drinking
Hey, folks,
some.
hold it down in the back. Hold it down. We're not done yet. Sorry.
We usually do not tap 1820 unless it's at least 108 proof, right? But we had a beautiful mistake, and you're drinking some 16-year-old whiskey that is 105 proof. So we toyed with, do we not put it in the bottle? Do we send it back? What should we do? I tasted it. Fawn tasted it. Keith tasted it. Speedy tasted it. Steve tasted it. And now you guys are tasting it. I think it's absolutely delicious. It was too good not to put in a bottle. Would you agree?
Connor, it's 16 years old. It's almost as old as you.
How many bottles did we get of the 16? Do you remember?
It says it on the back of the bottle here.
I don't remember how many we got.
Let's take a look here.
But I do know that won't happen again.
Okay, we got 158 bottles out of that barrel, and that's actually quite a lot of bottles for a 16-year-old, and that's because we keep them very close to the ground, so we have much less evaporation than you'd expect from other barrels in larger warehouses that have been sitting for 16 years. So. Yeah, so it's a technique that other distilleries around Tennessee use. The only people in Kentucky that really use that technique are Four Roses, but there's a lot of folks around Tennessee that use that technique of keeping the barrels close to the ground using one-story warehouses, and it's purely with the purpose of allowing the alcohol to evaporate at a faster rate than the water. The theory behind it is that your wood sugars that are on the inside of your barrel, when you are charring, making a barrel, you're basically coaxing out the wood sugars from inside the barrel and then firing them with a flame, so you have a charred layer of wood sugar inside that barrel. When you put the whiskey in there, one thing you have to remember is that those wood sugars are actually not soluble in alcohol, but they are soluble in water. So when you keep those barrels nice and close to the ground, and the alcohol evaporates at a faster rate than the water during the aging, then you have a higher water content in your whiskey. The wood sugars become more soluble in the solution during the aging. That leads to a much softer, sweeter, more wood sugar heavy whiskey when you finally take it out the barrel. So it is a technique that has a purpose, and I think it works absolutely beautifully in our products.
Okay, there's a limit of 14 questions. Brennan.
Whichever one you're buying me.
Ah, good answer, good answer. You see how he looked at me, right?
All right, we're gonna end up the show. Has everybody, before we do, got a few announcements, a few more questions. Has everybody had the 1820? Give me.
Actually, I have
Poor
not.
Thomas Reed another one. What do you all think? Do you love it? Do you raise your hand and just be honest, because it doesn't matter what expression you prefer. Everybody likes something different. Well, you go to the distillery, so raise your hand if you like the 1820, the last one, the best. All right, raise your hand if you like 1884, the best. That was our first one. So we have a few of those. And what about 1856, the middle one? Wow, that may be mine right there.
That's my everyday drinker right there.
Raise your hand if you thought they were all fabulous. All right.
Yeah, let's get a round of
Thank
applause for
you.
Victoria
Thank
and how
you.
good
Yeah.
those whiskeys are, by the way.
Thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Victoria,
Thank you.
you're not the first out-of-state distillery to come up, but you're the most exciting, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So Victoria has a really big event tonight with over 1,000 people at the African American Heritage Center, which I was a board member of when we raised the money and built it. And my little name's up on that top beam up there.
good.
Yeah, I was a young man a long time ago. But you have a great time. So here's what we're going to do. A couple of announcements. Raise your hand if you're not a member of the Big Bourbon Club. Raise it. Raise it. Raise it. Okay. So okay. We have 3 levels of membership. We have a free membership. Join. You have full access to the app. You see the events. Every month we bring in a distillery or a brand. We have a $125 a year, which all of these events, which would typically cost $35, are free for all of them. And then we have an out-of-town membership. It's $75 a year. If you're out of town, you get a couple of things. And with the $125 top shelf, you have access to all of the barrel picks. And the rumor is we know someone with the initials RM from London, England, who knows the Queen, who can get us the first barrel pick ever from a distillery in Shelbyville, Kentucky. But you get access to the...
Kentucky.
I was
Boy,
testing them.
I'm listening.
I was testing them.
I'm listening. Not much getting past these 60-year-old ears.
I have a farm in Shelbyville, Kentucky, so that's what's on my mind. Shelbyville, Tennessee. All right. So, Victoria, Richie, thank you so much. This was fabulous. And the night that I called Richie 6 months ago, asking him if he would do it, he had never met me. He meets me outside of his apartment, his kids up in the apartment, and spends time telling me the story and selling me. And I can't thank you enough. And I think we're good friends now. I appreciate it.
Of course. Love
All
you,
right,
buddy.
so
Pretty awesome.
a couple of other things. Let me mention this. Join the Big Bourbon Club, whether you choose free or whether you want to pay. It's up to you. But we would love to have you as a member. We would love you to come back to Joe's once a month. We have a great event. September 19th, Old Forester's coming out, and they're going to share. It's a Brown-Forman little brand. They're going to share their Whiskey Row series, the 1870, 1897, 1910, 1920. In October, we just found out Wilderness Trail is going to come. I think it's the 21st. It's the second Tuesday. We always go second Tuesday, except for the summer. This is one of our 3 Saturday events.
You're gonna have Dr. Pat Heist come out for that.
Dr. Pat is coming out and
Do
presenting.
not miss that, folks. Dr. Pat is hands down the most intelligent genius in the American whiskey business.
Dr.
Do
Pat
not
is
miss that.
the owner, the founder. He's going to present. And
Oh, he's a scientist. Oh my goodness, he'll blow you all away.
We're going to release our barrel pick there. We have Knob Creek. Actually, the barrel pick's already been delivered. We're going to deliver and release that in November. And next year, we have, I think, all of our monthly events already booked with distilleries calling us. So we're excited. One other thing, we've got about 20 bottles left. This is Yellowstone. This is the first ever barrel pick Yellowstone has ever done. They did it with me. I'm the chair of an organization called NBA Louisville. We're trying to bring the NBA here. And this was a fundraiser for NBA Louisville 4 years ago. The second bottle is being released next week. The second barrel pick we did is being released next week. We've got 20 bottles left for sale. If you want one, go to bigbourbon.club.com. There's 20 left, and that's all you're going to see. And with no further ado, Shayna, come here. Come here, baby. Come here. I want you to close it up because you came the furthest. You close it up. In front
What
of the
am
camera.
I doing? I am not the person that likes to be in front of people, just so you know. So you guys are special. All of you are special. Now, I appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoyed hearing the story. I hope you enjoyed fellowshipping with each other. This is what whiskey, bourbon, scotch, all of that is all about. It's about the people. It's about getting to know people, people that you normally wouldn't be friends with, the ages, the cultures, all of those things we can all get along with whiskey. So more whiskey. And I hope to see you guys in the future. Join the club. I'm in the club. So I want to see you guys again, okay? All right. Thanks, guys.
Yes. I got one last thing for you, Steve. I want to officially induct you into our Uncle Nearest whiskey family. There you go, buddy. And we got a special gift for you too. We got you 2 signed bottles of 1884 and 1856 here from Victoria. So yes, thank you everybody for coming out. We truly, truly appreciate you. We love you. We love that you took the time to stay and drink our whiskey with us. And we hope that you can be ambassadors for Uncle Nearest Green and go and tell the story and help us give this man and this family the legacy, the honor, the respect, the love that they have truly been deserving for the last 160 years. So thank you all and welcome to our whiskey family. We appreciate you.
All right, and actually the last announcement, Victoria does not have a lot of time. She said she'd be happy to take a couple of pictures, and I know several of you have already asked me. I get the first one, Derek gets the second one, and Brittany gets the third one. But if you want them, she said she'd be happy to do that. All right, thanks for coming out, everybody.